Abundance, beauty, and confidence achieved through a meaningful connection to self. Namaste and welcome to the Sacred Space. My name is Bhavna, and here I share my personal transformation journey with you and introduce you to tools that will empower you and help you create a better life for yourself and others around you. By first understanding who you are, and secondly, understanding your mission in this life. Our education system fails to teach us to solve real life problems, whether that is a relationship issue, managing finances, or starting a business. We are never taught to distinguish between personal improvement and personal transformation, how to become present in time, how to take responsibility for our own lives, including our mental and emotional health. And most of all, how to learn to listen to our own inner wisdom. Instead, our education system does exactly the opposite. It rewards book smarts. It prepares us for one way of life, the 9-to-5 life. And even there it falls short because it doesn't teach us to balance work and life and expand ourselves through our true life purpose. It also doesn't enable us to choose a life in which we feel most fulfilled, a life where we find validation within us, not from outside of us. Today, I will share with you what I have learned through my own journey, actually seeing challenges and struggles as opportunities for growth. So let's get to it. Let's discuss the concept of life management. What is life management? Life management is all about solving real life challenges. How do you get over a breakup? How to pick relationships that will help you expand rather than contract your being? How to solve family issues? How to overcome procrastination in a way that it's not forced? How to realize your inner potential? How to listen to your own guidance? How to become neutral and how to make money so that money doesn't destroy your sense of self. Instead, it expands your being. I know that was a mouthful, so I will break it down for you. There are 3 components of life that you need to understand so you can manage your life well. 1. The consciousness you exist in. 2. The patterns that you embody. And 3. The struggles that you encounter. And the goal of life management is to solve for your problems in a way that you not only end up removing the patterns that caused the problem in the first place, but that you also raise the consciousness that you exist in so that similar patterns aren't created to replace the old ones. You may akin this to understanding the cause of your problem, removing the problem, and changing your environment to ensure that the cause of the problem cannot exist or resurface. So let's try to understand the relationship between consciousness that you exist in, the patterns you run, and the struggles that you face. Because simply doing mindset work might help you conquer those struggles, but it won't guarantee that those struggles don't invade your life at a different time in another form. For example, understanding how to set boundaries could be a temporary fix or a permanent one. Which method would you want to choose? Would you like to keep setting boundaries with every single person that you meet in your life? Or would you like to live in a reality in which you never have to set boundaries so that your life moves in a flawless manner? So let's start with an example. Let's say you want to create a beautiful landscape painting, a watercolor painting perhaps. But you only have 2 colors available to you, red and white. Sure, you could mix different proportions of these colors and paint with different shades. But in the end, all you have are paintings with different shades of red. That's it. No yellow, no green. Someone else that lives in a different consciousness has red, white, and green available to them. So they get to paint with a lot more shades. You see their beautiful, colorful paintings and you want to paint with the colors that are available to them. You want the green as well. But green is not available in your consciousness, in the consciousness that you exist in. That is your struggle. Sure, you could borrow some green, try painting with it, but eventually you run out. You have to keep borrowing green and maybe they ask for all your red. So it's not a sustainable solution. You want your own supply of all three colors. That is the definition of struggle. In this example, the associated pattern would be that of obligation. Obligation to give them red to get some of their green. And the consciousness would simply be your existence with the various conditions available to you. One of which is having access to only two colors to paint with. So you see, your consciousness is the set of conditions that determine your current level of existence, including the goals that you can achieve in your life and the opportunities for success, health, and relationships that you have. Those conditions are determined by the underlying patterns that you embody. So for example, if you run patterns of abuse and fear, you might encounter many situations where you are either fearful for your life or abused by another, or both. But those conditions become your comfort zone and you develop this victim mentality. That is in fact the role of patterns, to create your reality in a way that is comforting to you. And doing the work to let go of patterns that are keeping you stuck in one particular reality is the work that can transform your life by transforming the consciousness that you exist in. It's changing one pattern at a time to change your existence or the conditions that you live in. And struggle is how patterns show themselves. Your struggle is your evidence of the underlying patterns that you run. Each step on a ladder to a higher consciousness will show itself as a challenge in your life. So if one of the struggles you have in your life is perhaps having no time, you're constantly in this fight to have more time. Basically, that means that certain patterns are keeping you behind universal time. When that happens, you find that in many situations in your life, they actually leave you feeling depleted and fatigued. Or if you run a pattern that keeps you ahead of universal time, you will find that you won't have much patience for situations people live in, movies, and even books. Because consciousness, your patterns, and your struggles are all related. But you don't yet understand your patterns or your consciousness. So how can you transform your life? The answer is that you can use your current struggle to work backwards to a memory that created that pattern for you in this consciousness. Over time, you can also up-level your consciousness with more self-awareness and inner work. Gautam Buddha said this about truth. There are only two mistakes one can make along the road to truth. One is not going all the way, and the other one is not starting. I will show you how you can take advantage of your struggles today to realize your truth. Listen, everyone I know has struggled or is struggling currently with one situation or another. I haven't met many people in my life that aren't struggling or facing challenges on the daily. Everyone faces challenges. They are just different than yours. Whether they talk about their struggle or seek help depends on how much of their identity is tied into that struggle. For example, if someone runs a victim pattern, regardless of how much you try to help them, they will find a way to keep running into situations that make them feel like a victim. Do you ever feel like people just don't want to listen to your advice that can actually help them? This is why. Or if someone runs a pattern of not feeling worthy, even making boatloads of money will leave them feeling worthless. They will keep searching for solutions to feel worthy of what they have. They won't ever be able to really appreciate themselves or others. The key is that in both these examples, people often search for solutions that are outside of themselves to bring about a change in how they feel within themselves. That is why the real problem is not the struggle. The real problem is the resistance to observing the struggle without attaching that struggle or the resistance to it to their identity. This is exactly what happens when you hear people say things like, I'm not lucky, or I have to work hard for everything. They have created a belief system, and in their life, then that becomes a manifestation of their belief system. It's very hard to observe the struggle within you. We have been programmed to look outside of us for solutions. We look for appreciation from others, validation from our friends, peace from a yoga retreat, happiness from things and experiences, respect from family, protection from the police, fairness at work, and the list goes on. Isn't it much easier and much more efficient to cultivate all of this within? Imagine the time and energy that you will save in the long run if you felt safe within, if you respected yourself, if you were at peace regardless of the chaos, if you could find real happiness by connecting to yourself, your inner self. Struggle is simply an opportunity to evolve to a better version of you. Sure, it would be nice to never have to struggle, but that's not the case in this life. You can use your struggle to understand the patterns that you run and what the conditions are of your existence today. And only after understanding your environment and the reason your environment is creating struggle for you can you awaken to a higher level of existence. And that is why sometimes you hear people say that their suffering was a gift, because what they mean is that their suffering pushed them to awaken. Suffering on its own is not a gift. It's how you use that suffering that's the gift. So when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease a few years ago, it felt like my life had collapsed overnight. Because without that career, the health, vitality, the happiness, I did not feel like I was the same person anymore. And I definitely did not want to change my life. In fact, I was so resistant to changing that I denied myself the presence to understand why I was so sick. And I had to go to 3 different specialists before I finally accepted that I was sick. Even then, for the next 2 or 3 years, I worked on my mindset to still feel positive about my life. I still tried to lead a normal life, but I was kidding myself. My life was not the same anymore. It seemed like everything was being stripped away from me, and I was really angry about that. What that period in my life showed me was that my job, the money I made, my work experience, my family, my social life, and even my level of health had become my identity. But when that was taken away, I felt completely lost, like I didn't have a purpose anymore. My response to a health challenge was a regular response most people would have. But that response did not bring in the solution for my problem. The medications prescribed by the specialists at the time would have various side effects, and I would sleep all day. Even with the meds, I had stopped living. I was simply surviving every single day. The reason those medications did not work was that my doctor was unable to diagnose the real cause of the disease. They were simply treating the symptoms like inflammation, fatigue, spasms, pain. They didn't really bother to even understand the side effects I was having with the meds. I was sacrificing wellness to survive. I was just existing rather than living. That is the approach we usually take when faced with a health issue or a relationship issue or a work issue. We solve for the symptom. Solving for the symptom only creates other issues that didn't even exist before you started to solve your problem. For example, if you feel that your partner is not contributing in daily household chores like you are, what would you do? Most people would react. They would try to force changes in their relationship without understanding why that problem was created in the first place. This is where you need to discern the difference between a symptom of a problem and the root cause of a problem. If you are simply addressing symptoms, you will not be able to solve a challenge for good. It will come back in another form. And it's totally okay to address a symptom as long as you also understand that the problem will repeat and recycle in your life if the root cause is not addressed. So if you feel that your partner does not help around the house, you could sit down with them. You could talk about why this is happening. You could force some kind of agreement with them and make sure that they're accountable to you the way you're accountable to them. Or you could first understand why this problem was created before you react or before you try to solve for the problem. What if we try to understand the conditions that had created the problem in the first place? And what if we change the conditions so those problems won't recycle again? That is what I ended up doing after a few years into my own health challenges. I decided to stop treating the symptoms and start understanding why I felt so lost without a career or friends or vitality to hold on to. Was my being here not enough? Why did I need external validation for my being? Could I be happy without having everything that I had lost to that health issue? In short, I surrendered to the now. I accepted that it was okay to let go of the past and it was time to understand where exactly I have landed and what I can do to gain back my health and maybe a few new friends. You can watch my video series on how to change your life if you want to learn more about recognizing and shifting out of patterns. Your struggle is the best tool you have today to ascend to a higher level of existence where the conditions for your existence are far more favorable. When you exist in a lower level consciousness, you will have problems that are created in that consciousness based on the patterns that you run. But when you use struggle as a gateway to a brand new level of consciousness, the conditions that you live in are more conducive to an abundant reality. Recently, I experienced a very painful flare-up in my body. It was highly inflammatory. Instead of only solving for the pain that I was feeling, I decided to first figure out the root cause of the problem. And then I took some pain medication to help me get through this difficult phase. My pain tolerance is quite high due to my past experience with autoimmune. So I was able to delay taking the pain meds, and you might not be able to do the same. This is simply an example to explain an important concept. Once I recognized why I was going through the flare-up after an extremely long time, I was then able to address the underlying patterns associated memories that brought about the flare-up. Once I recognized the underlying reason for the inflammation in my body, I shifted to a different frequency. And a different symptom showed up. I repeated the process until I was finally pain-free and symptom-free 3 days later. This process required patience and trust in my own knowingness. The point is that I did not destroy myself due to one struggle I faced. Instead, I used my recent health challenge to clear more resistance in my body. Once I did that, I freed myself from that resistance and ascended to a higher level of existence. At this level, the conditions for my existence changed and I was pain-free. Pain and struggle exist for a reason, to remind us, to give us opportunities to learn about ourselves and evolve. We can choose to ignore those signals and carry on by treating the symptoms, or we can do inner work to remove the root cause of our challenges. In fact, that is the journey we come here to experience. We are equipped with the knowing about our struggles, why we face certain challenges, and what we can do about them. All we need is to develop that level of patience to be present with the challenges and mobilize self-awareness to understand the conditions that created the challenge. Real-time transformation. The simple answer to this question is that your life changes in real time when you address the root cause of your struggle. You might not see the changes in the beginning because you might not be in time or present in the universal time, or what many spiritual thinkers label as the now moment. But once you get there, you will see those shifts happening really fast. When I have issues come up, I know it's coming up so I can finally let it go. That is what happened with the flare-up. My being transformed because I was present with the painful flare-up. I saw it, observed it, and understood why it was happening now. And in real time, I experienced physical shifts, especially with the intensity of the flare-up. After 3 days of intense inner work, I was able to release resistance that I had felt to feeling worthy. I went to the original source of the unworthiness I had felt now and then, and again started to receive guidance on the next steps for me. Transformation happens when we hold space for it, and that happens when we observe the struggle, trust our knowingness about the underlying cause of the struggle, even if the root cause seems ridiculous to our minds. Holding space for our own progression is the definition of self-love, in my view. Your ability to hold space for you is going to make all the difference in the quality of the shifts you receive. Personal transformation and self-awareness go hand in hand. You cannot transform your life if you do not develop self-awareness. For now, if you are struggling, use that struggle as an opportunity to realize the root cause, and then the realization is enough to shift it out of your consciousness. Because that's what I did, and I can assure you that you can also develop this ability with practice. If you like this video, please like and share this video and share it with your friends. And if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can also become part of this sacred space where I try to share my experiences with transformation weekly. Thank you for joining me here today. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.